Well, welcome to www.happynumbers.org. Multiplication of integers, and this is part 3. And this is just to give us some practice. In part 1 of the multiplication, we talked about the rationale, about the rules. The rules are a positive and a positive, or a negative and a negative. If we're multiplying or dividing, the answer is positive. If we're multiplying or dividing and the signs are different, the answer is always negative. So part 1 we talked about the rationale of that, and if you'd like to, if you weren't quite clear on that and you want to review it, just go back to that video. And then in part 2 we did some practice, and now here's part 3. I have a bunch of multiplication problems for you and a bunch of division problems for you. So put the DVD on pause, or put the video on pause, and copy these down in your notebook or on a piece of paper and work them, and then turn the video back on and we'll go over it. Let's see how we did here. Okay, the way I work these problems when I'm looking at integers is I always deal with the sign first. So I know this is a positive and a positive, so I know the answer is positive. Then I do the multiplication or division. 1 times 9 is 9. Signs are the same, so it's positive. Let's go over here. I have a positive 18 divided by a negative 3. Well, I have a positive and a negative, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And 18 divided by 3, or 3 goes into 18 6 times. So my answer is a negative 6. Let's come here. Well, I have a negative and a negative, and I know those two signs are the same, so the answer is going to be positive. So I just multiply. 10 times 9 will give me 90. Signs are the same, so it's positive. Here I have a negative and a positive, so I know my answer is going to be negative. If I multiply 8 times 1, I get 8, so the answer is negative 8. Let's go here. Negative 25, negative 5. Both signs are the same. If both signs are the same, the answer is going to be positive. 5 will go into 25 5 times, so that's a positive 5. Negative 16, positive 4, signs are different, answer is going to be negative. 4 goes into 16 4 times. Let's come here. So I have 3 signs. Now here's how I work this. I know a negative times a positive is going to give me a negative. So when I multiply these two together, I'm going to get a negative. And then I know a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So my answer is going to be positive. The way I did that, I say, okay, a negative times a positive is going to be, that's going to be negative. The signs are different. And then the answer to these two is going to be negative, and then a negative times a negative gives me positive. So I know my answer is going to be positive, and then I just do the multiplication. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 times 1 is 15. See, if I went this way, a negative 3 times positive 5 would have given me a negative 15, and then a negative 15 times a negative 1 gives me positive 15. So that's why I said I can just work the signs. I can say negative times a positive is going to give me a negative, and then a negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. Let's take a look at this one here. Negative times a negative is going to give us a positive, because they're the same, and then a positive times a positive will be positive, so we know this answer is going to be positive. And then we just do the multiplication. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. Let's look at this one here. Negative 2, or let's say negative times a negative is going to give me a positive, and a positive times a negative is going to give me a negative. So I know my answer is going to be negative. And let's see. If we went negative 2 times negative 2, that would be positive 4, and a positive 4 times a negative 2 gives me negative 8. Let's go over to the division. Positive and positive, so the answer is going to be positive. 4 goes into 28. 4 divides into 28 7 times, so the answer is positive 7. Let's take a look at this last one. Negative and positive, so the answer is going to be negative, but 6 goes into 6 one time, so we get a negative 1. Take a look at this one. Well, anytime a number is multiplied or divided by 0, the answer is always 0, and 0 is neither positive nor negative. Let's take this, a couple of quick examples of that. Okay, now here I could go like this. Negative 6 times a negative 3, so negative and a negative would be positive, and 6 times 3 is 18, and then I have 18 times 0, and that's equal to 0. But what you can do in a problem like this, if you see that some numbers and they're going to be multiplied by 0, then you say, well, automatically the answer is 0. Automatically the answer would be 0. Same in division. You don't have to worry about the sign. The answer is 0. You might encounter a problem like this. Okay, so here you have a negative 6 times a negative 2 divided by negative 4. Well, since this is parentheses, and we're going to go into this in the next lesson on order of operations, we have to do what's inside here first. So, negative and a negative is going to give us a positive, and 6 times 2 is 12. So now we have a positive 12 divided by a negative 4. Well, a positive and a negative, signs are different, so we know our answer is going to be negative, and 4 goes into 12 3 times. Let's give you one more problem like that. Let's try this one. Okay. Put your video or DVD on pause and work this one. Remember, you have to do what's inside this parentheses first. All right, go ahead. Okay, let's see here. Since I have to do this first and I'm multiplying a negative times a negative, I know that my answer is going to be positive. So 15 times 3 is 45, and it's a positive 45. Now I'm dividing that by a negative 5. Well, I'm dividing positive and negative, so the signs are different, so I know my answer has to be negative. 5 goes into 45 9 times, so negative 9 is the correct answer. Well, that should do it for multiplication and division of integers or signed numbers. And again, the rule, if the signs are the same, the answer is always positive. If the signs are different, answer is always negative. Thank you very much. See you next time.